let's examine, the storytelling and things that they do online to sensationalism to keep making money. Unexplained David Ruffin's voice. They tell you about when he's closing, holding, how he's doing, blah, 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 blah. It's a Bobby Balloon and hack. Why is he doing that? Because it gets on my nerve. Could you tell him to please stop? Okay. And Mel Duffy, that's what made him famous. Is like he hawks loogies in the middle of his song, and it made him famous. Well, could you put on some BB King? Because he'd be driving me crazy. I thought he had a good voice. I was like, oh, I like this. And then he'd hack. And you go, why he do that? No, it was the thing that made him famous. I was like, why? Someone's telling him, dude, you don't hawk a loogie in the middle of a song. It's just not kosher, man. But there's, if it's considered something that you do, okay. And then sometimes it's like, yeah, I think that's just trying to be original and it maybe needs to stop. Just, don't worry that it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing a song, da 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 da, right? And all this stuff that they have, shot before casting. Anna King Gables, 1985, 14 weird facts you did not know. Is that we're still advertising to hold stuff hostage and you still accept it and you're retarded? Okay, well, you didn't know that? Well, I'll explain it to you. I'll try harder, look harder. And then they had this one, Germans captured him. He laughed and then killed 21 of them. Okay. It's an American guy and they tell this story and it's like, what they failed to tell you is when the Americans were moving in, okay, those Germans, those are actors. When Hitler was holding the army together after the mass murder and the fiasco, and it's in the book of Daniel, the goat and the ram, when they get, okay, all he had left was teenage 12, 13-year-old boys and old men. So the guy who sits there, he laughed and then killed 21 of them. They don't tell you it was 12-year-olds and 70-year-olds that were taken captive and then that they just took captive because they were scared. And one of the older guys goes, don't let this happen. You don't know if they'll rape the women or whatever they do, like what happens if, And so, because they're psychopaths. He laughed and then killed 21 of them. Yeah, he killed 21 of the men that were killed, of German men. He killed 20 of them. 6 of them were 70 and older. The rest were all under 13. 13 and under, right. They don't tell you that part. We're scared shitless or just not capable of stopping a 30, 25, 28-year-old trained killer that came in because all their trained killers were killed in the Russian front by Joseph Stalin and Himmler and the Pussycats, right? So, every time they tell these stories, incredible, amazing story, but what they don't tell you is what the German army was comprised of when Hitler was in his bunker and committed suicide with Eva Braun. And the Goebbels killed their own kids. Okay? The story behind the story. Let it go. Okay? Forgive debt and trespass. Love one and eternal faithful peace. Let it fucking go. Okay? Just Das Boot, let it fucking go. Okay? Louie, 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 Louie. I always liked that song. I didn't know it was white folks that sang it, though. I thought it was a black woman that sang it. It's a white dude. Yeah, the stories. Brother Louie. Yeah. I was like, wow, that's crazy, man. I thought that was a black woman singing that. No, it's a white guy. That's like, you ever heard of I'm a Girl Watcher? It's a dude that looks like Steve Martin. I thought it was a brother who sang it. I'm like, oh, it's a white guy that looks like Steve Martin. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Watching girls go by. My. Yeah, you're putting on a show. Could you walk a little slower? I'm a girl watcher. I'm a girl watcher. Watching girls go by. And they have all these vintage photos of girls half dressed and in their underwear and stuff. Oh, you won't believe these photos exist. It's like, okay, so Larry Flint, Bob Crane. Man, have you got to look at the paintings in Tombstone? That's a naked woman. There you go. Okay, you won't believe they actually did. Yeah, of course they did stuff like that. The movies, that's the 1950s. Okay? What they did in certain towns, you won't believe what happened. What do you mean you won't believe it? If you look at ancient times with all the phallic symbols and all the sexuality stuff and all the architecture, it's okay. You don't Toulouse retract, do you? You won't believe. You know, the prohibition of one era and then the roaring 20s, 30s of the other because they tried to ban alcohol. The way you won't believe, you won't believe, you won't believe that was you won't believe how this is. I won't believe that people were having sex. And you know they used to come into the city and get, like old Mike Leach used to explain to his kids at Washington State. He said, they used to be sitting there with your son in the North 40 plowing it. And like that, Follow the River with Eric Zweig, You're plowing the field. Your wife's back there with the critters and the kids and And here come 20 men that train and work on raiding, looting, pillaging, and taking away all your hard work with their excessive compulsive behaviors. They come in, they steal everything out of the barn. And then you got to call Chris and Lee Marvin and Charlie Bronson and the soccer player and the Magnificent Seven. What's so magnificent about people that can't understand and live Psalms and Proverbs and understand that when you go wackadoodle Roman, you live the Lord's Prayer? Okay? Samson's a beautiful man. Worshiped Jehovah, worked in the fields. The Philistines trained to fight and kill and take what they want, made the women work in the fields, and then said to Samson, ha ha ha, you do women's work. And he said, ha 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 ha, I do it better than you and your women do. Okay, do you understand? Do you understand? Okay. So when you're looking at information and you're watching the information, you're hearing people explain and process information. Here's how this guy sings. I understand it. I get that. Okay, and you can train your voice to do things that it regularly doesn't do. I'd rather just sing. That's what I love about Earl Fitzgerald. She rarely does that. She doesn't do that. She just gets out there and she goes. Now, she can do some things because she just naturally has this gifted voice. And that's what the little Maggie Renee girl said. She goes, no, it's easy for people like that. You think it's hard, but it's not. Okay. Like with basketball, when they say, the announcers, well, he does this, it's real hard. No, it's not. No, when I go back to the back of the gym and I stay in good and decent shape, I don't overdo it so I don't hurt myself because I'm not excessive compulsive gymnastics or track coach. But I just go back to the back corner and I leap. And then I surprise myself. It's like, God dang, how'd you jump so high? Well, he's okay. I didn't know I could jump that high. I always had a governor on the engine. Yeah. And I'd get mad. I was always talking to Jesus about it. It's like, I don't understand. Because when I go play out there on the court and stuff like that, I jump real high. And then when I try to measure myself, I'm not jumping as high. Yeah, get over it. Don't worry about it. That was always the voice in my head. Don't worry about it. And then, like I said, when I ran against Brian and Leo was freaking out, I was like, yeah, you ran faster than anybody I ever saw. Trust me, I did it. I felt it. I was running so fast, my head was shaking like Tom Cruise in an airplane. I was like, good God. And I got nervous. So I stopped myself and looked to see where Brian was at, and I was blowing him away. I was embarrassing the hell out of him. So I eased up so I wouldn't. Well, because, they said he was an ass. Yeah, Quebec could be a real ass. He was, Wolverines and tribal and racist and stupid like his old man and, stuff. But it didn't mean he couldn't be a decent kid. Yeah, he had his moments. I liked Skibiak, and I wasn't trying to just get along with him as crazy. You think he's going to show up with a gun and shoot you, which he always said. I said, you need to take it easy on that shit, because there's more of these Mexicans than there is you, and some of them might be just as good of a shot or better than you. And you're going to get your ass blown off or kicked if you talk all this shit. Just don't start, none won't be none, I didn't. When they got in my shit, I said, hey, okay, like this baby daddy. And so, you bring that gun, you better be able to use it, or I'll use it to kill you. And then, shit. I don't want to do nothing, And then, and because I was totally respectful to that young man. We were about the same age. And he came in, and I told him, I said, I'm sorry, if I'd known she was living with you, she wouldn't have got past my front door. Same thing I said to James at Southwest with Kimberly. I did not know. I am so sorry. And then in both cases, they went all stupid on me. And I was like, I see why she was at my house instead of wanting to be with you. You know, like I told James, I said, man, trust is intimacy and trust is very valuable. And we gave it away like it was a $2 bill. So we just didn't, we learned our lesson. We take our time, make sure that our trust is earned. It doesn't matter. You don't know the patience of a woman that wants to mold you into something she wants you to be instead of being what you need her to be. Life's eternal and grace is infinite. Think like a woman. Okay? If she's got my mind set on you, but it's going to take plenty of money to do it right, child. If she thinks it's going to take 5 years to turn you into the greatest man in the history of the Smithsonian and the Louvre, she's going to do it. And the only way you're going to stop it is if you go and never come back. Like, got a wife and kids in Baltimore, Jack went out for a ride and I never went back. Okay. Or you kill yourself. Okay. You go behind a barn, you shoot yourself in the genitalia, and you suffocate in a pile of manure. Okay. That's the only way you're going to get away from that bitch trying to turn you into her portrait and her statue of her greatness. Okay. Some of them have penises. They're on RuPaul's drag show, right? And then they run for office every 2 to 4 years. Okay. Or they get selected as the head admiral of the Secretary of State, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Stooty Pooty Pooter. Yeah, the diaper that never gets changed if it's the best shit producer for fertilizer everywhere that denies us the Lord's Prayer because it's not time yet, right? Okay. So you got to understand all this bad information. Why are we recycling it? Because they need to have you in a sinner's state of mind. It's a vampire. How would I say? Vampires don't exist. It's like, okay, you vote for president, right? Well, then write a song about that. Okay. And then you'll understand what it's like for your family to get blood sucked by vampires. And then, have to get their diabetes treatment from living too close to the airport in Houston. How to get their cancer treatment from living downtown and too close to the airport in Phoenix. And how to die in a hospice in 1994. Been away, haven't seen you in a while. How you been? Have you changed your style, and do you think that we've grown up differently? Don't seem the same. Seems you've lost your feel for me. Right. So let's leave it alone because we can't see eye to eye. There ain't no good guy. There ain't no bad guy. There's only you and me, and we just disagree. If I'm truthful and I'm faithful, and you're a liar who will kill me to live your lie, okay, our disagreement has everything to do with right and wrong, good and bad, and truth and lie, right? So I'm not Dave Mason. Okay? I'm not my parents in Scottsdale at the hospice. I'm the living embodiment of the Lord's Prayer who proved it beyond any reasonable doubts. Okay? And you guys still think you can disagree with the truth and murder over money rather than live the commands of the Lord and wrap it up in scientific discovery and do it all in the name of science. Right, Madam Curie. Go kill yourself, murdering children in Hiroshima and Nagasaki and Tularosa. So you can go down as history as one of Sheldon Cooper's screensavers on his laptop, right? That only spent less than a half an hour on an astronaut's genitals, right? He ain't really an astronaut. He's pretending to be an astronaut. Maybe he did go up into space. Did he go on a Blue Origin thing, or wasn't that Katy Perry there, the firework girl, right? And Oprah and Gail, or was it just Gail? Is Oprah gone up? Oprah, are you okay? I don't know. Do you want to go up in space? No. Why? Why? Punch holes in the ozone to look down on poor people to say, hey, I'm up here because I got enough money, wealth, and fame to punch holes in the ozone to look down on you. Highest of the highest, the lowest of the low. A man gets tied up to the ground. He gets rather feel the earth beneath my feet. Yes, I would. He's just singing songs to sell them to people that think they know what it's like to be abused and poor. when they've been abusing the poor to be rich for thousands of years. Yeah. Let them eat cake. Yes, Marie. Okay. Off with their heads. Keep your head. Remember what the doorman said. Right? And tears are running down your breast, and your friend's baby. They treat you like a guest. You guys got the airplane or the starship? Do you believe in miracles? So would I. Miracles are something that people describe with things that they either don't understand or don't understand why it's happening. And then when someone shows up and says, why is this happening? Then they call it a miracle. It's a miracle what Earl did. No, it's reality. And when you're not living the truth of reality, my life seems like a miracle, okay? Which it's not. It's just like yours. Okay, in the same way he came to the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay, so bomb Iran while I was, or 16 tons, what do you get? Shenandoah? Yeah, poor guy drink himself to death. That's a heavy load to bear. Being on the airplane that dropped the loads on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, shit, I wouldn't want to be that person. Okay, but as far as being in King David's light and cursed with the sword to save us from doing things like that, I'll be that person. Sure, why not? I love kids. They're cute. Even when they're trained to be, samurais that cut people's heads off if they don't agree with them. Oh, yeah. Life's eternal and grace is infinite. I can take a samurai and turn him into a faithful Buddhist who loves Jesus with all his being. Yeah. I don't think he was ever that way. No. I think if he ever cut anybody's head off, it was because he was a raper and a liar and a murderer who lied to himself and said, I'll take whatever I want, and if I can, I will do it. And Suzuki said no. And his relative said no. This woman does not wish to be raped by you. She does not want to be made into your sexual property. And none of these men are competing with your capacity to rape, so why would you cut off their genitalia? They just want to love one woman that wants to be loved by them. And if you can't do that, then I'll take this rock, hit you right between the eyes with it, and cut your head off with your own fucking sword. Thank you. The perfect father perfectly loves you. There is nothing perfect about a murdering rapist. Okay? So take your Cossacks or Visigoths and your Vandals and be gone with you, right? No prayer in here. Okay? There's Red Cloud and there's Crazy Horse. Be like Crazy Horse. He's a half-breed. How I learned to hate the word. That's all I ever heard. Yeah. Crazy Horse and Little Hawk were half-breeds. Yeah. They don't want to tell you that. That's because they made the story to suit their, why do you think they treated them like such shit? Because they were poor? There was no economic structure in the people. Your status was based on your courage and your capacity to protect the young and the old from the abusive. And you can't sit there and say that Red Cloud and No Water were better at doing that than Little Hawk and Crazy Horse. But Little Hawk and Crazy Horse were still treated like shit because their dads were from the fort. But when bigotry and racism rears its ugly head, okay, if it comes in the color of the people that want to be the victims of bigotry and racism, the whole script gets flipped. And everybody's a KKK member, but the Black Panthers and the Nation of Islam are righteous, holy defenders of faith and love. Just like Hamas and Al-Qaeda, right? And the KGB and the FBI and DARPA and NSA and Homeland Security and so on and so forth. Okay, let's all break together in war gangs, sharks and jets and sharks. And let's just forget about Jesus. He's a loser. He didn't lose his life. He lives eternally through the faithful. People that lose their lives were abused by perverts like Hitler and were 12 and 13 years old or 70 years old. He laughed and killed 21 of them. Yeah, when he came back home and he was a hero. Yeah, and a man named Al Capone tried to make that town his own, so he called his gang to war against the forces of the law. The night Chicago died. Okay, just live with Lori's parents. Shut the fuck up. That was an old song. Yeah, they were fucking crazy back then, just like the Charlie Chan and the Mr. Moto movies. Okay, Sherlock Holmes? Okay, Sherlock Holmes. Knock it off. Knock it out the box, sir. You a virtuoso on the bassoon? Okay. I love you guys, all right? Write another story for a screenplay for money to impress idiots. Just keep it up. You're very successful and you'll get lots of awards for murdering assholes who declare that their money's better at saving people from murder over money than the other assholes. Shut up. Shutting up. Okay, Rabbit?